This had better be important.
Yes, sir. The American agent has infiltrated the X-Lab facility.
Welcome back to the Funker 530 Combat Footage Review. My name's Ronnie. It's Tuesday. It's weird. I know we're here. We'll talk about it. It's good to see you. Tap the like button, drop a comment in the chat. We're back. Happy Tuesday. What's up? All right, who's there? Knock, knock. Where's your facial hair, bro? The army cult doesn't let me wear a beard. Hopefully we can change that. Yo, Ronnie, what's going on? How are you? Denmark, what's up? Tallahassee, Florida, Belgium. Boston. St. Louis, Louisiana. What's going on? Germany, how are you? Michigan, Wisconsin, Latvia, Philadelphia, Duluth, Minnesota, Virginia. What's up, buddy? It's good to see you guys. Quantico, Virginia, welcome in. Happy Tuesday to you. I know today is not a normal scheduled stream night, but I was on a little bit of travel last week with the 9 to 5 over with the National Association for Gun Rights. Become a member. But this week, I'm going to be on a little bit more travel. I'm headed out to Range Day in San Antonio with Donut Operator, Demo Ranch, that whole crew, just like I go every year. And there'll be a bunch of video this time because we're going to take one of the other team members that has joined recently here at Funker 530 to help us document all the fun that happens out there and all the folks out there exercising their American Second Amendment rights, which we are big fans of here at Funker 530. I'm sorry to Canada for the 324 additional semi-automatic rifles that were just banned. Not something that we're going to talk about here, but it's something that I've talked about quite a bit. Tonight, though, we're going to be talking about quite a bit of footage from an arena that we don't normally cover very much. Before we get there, though, I need to talk a little bit about our sponsor, and they're right there over my right shoulder behind me. It's RMA. When it comes to body armor is something that I have been diving into over the last 3 or 4 years. All I ever had was those issued SAPI plates, you know, don't drop it because it might crack. You never really know how good it's going to be. Well, RMA is 100% made in America with American materials, edge-to-edge, level 4 protection. Specifically, that's the 1165 behind me. The 1165, being level 4, means that it can stop up to multiple hits. I say multiple hits. There's not a single hit plate of 30-06 armor-piercing ammunition. That's going to cover all of your Soviet-type threats, 545, 7.6254, etc. But it is rated for multiple hits of 30-06 armored piercing. I personally run level 4 plates. Armor is always a trade-off, though. The challenge normally with higher level armor is that it's going to be heavier. That's where RMA actually exceeds the plates that are in my personal carrier right now. I only have 2 of these plates that RMA sent me. This plate is only something like 6.8 pounds, which as a level 4 plate is kind of amazing. Go check out RMA. We thank RMA very much for sponsoring tonight's show. We appreciate all of our sponsors, but definitely those that are in the Second Amendment and armament industries. The right to bear arms extends to the right to own armor. Let's just put it that way. Thanks very much, RMA. Let's talk about what we're going to cover tonight. So again, I'm a little jumbled because we're covering an arena that we haven't talked about a whole lot. We're going to come right out of the gate with it. Effectively, the Syrian Civil War, which I do consider the latest breaking news to come out of Syria as an extension of the Syrian Civil War, has kind of come to something of a close, at least to a certain perspective. Assad and his regime, along with their Russian backers, have fallen. There are a multitude of factions involved in this right now, a lot of misinformation floating around about who is backed by who. I'm going to do my best to dispel some of those, at least at a very face value. I'm no Syria expert, though. We've talked about Syria here before, at least to the extent that it's so complicated that unless you truly research and dedicate time and energy against its research, you're really not going to be able to do it a whole lot of justice. So, via footage, we're going to be seeing some of HTS, or Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, better known as, or at least formally known as al-Nusra, which is by extension Al-Qaeda, and their push into, I think it's Homs or one of the other cities. A little bit of footage there, but I also want to cover some things that are happening in current state. Since I wasn't here last week, there's a lot that we would have missed on that. I hope you were checking in on the website. But we're going to cover a little bit of current state as to what is happening now that Assad has made his way to Moscow. And that's exactly where he is. The first thing that I'm going to show you is a little bit of footage as Syria was falling. Russia did their best to stem the tide, including using their air capabilities like this Ka-52. You'll recognize the TTPs they use. Here's the irony about this video. The report from this says that it was Russia attempting to shoot down drones with their Ka-52. While that might be the case in other footage, this is most certainly not a Ka-52 shooting down drones. This is a Ka-52 lobbing unguided rockets using a lofted firing technique that we've seen all across Ukraine. What it does, from both Ukrainians and Russians, what it does is it protects the airframe from anti-air capabilities. It keeps you outside of the engagement distance of that, or at least on the far edge of it to protect your asset. But Russia did attempt to stem the tide of HTS's advance. It's not just HTS, though, or Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. You also have organizations like the Syrian National Army, which is effectively the new rebrand of the Free Syrian Army, the SNA specifically, with a lot of Turkish backing. Those are and also would be considered quote-unquote rebels. And then you're going to have organizations like the SDF, the Syrian Democratic Forces, or Syrian Defense Forces, excuse me if I got that wrong. I'm having a little bit of a brain fart on that. But effectively, they are the Kurds. And over the course of time, at least in history, they have been the ones that the U.S. has backed in their fight against ISIS. There is a lot of back and forth over who the United States is supporting, who they are not supporting, who Russia is supporting and who they aren't, who Israel is supporting. And to be honest with you, Israel is kind of supporting themselves. And I'm going to show you some footage of that here in a little bit. But let's take a look at some more footage. Assad's forces, the forces that ultimately matter, absolutely folded like a lawn chair. Here is a Russian looking over some of the left-behind equipment, I'm talking small arms and uniforms, etc., from the Syrian Arab Army, Assad's regime forces.
Все бросает, переодевается в гражданскую форму одежды, оставляет оружие, полностью, блядь, снаряженный автоматы с магазинами, блядь, и уходит в направление иракской границы с Ливией. Кто в Ирак, кто в Ливан, поэтому просто оружие. О. Здравствуйте, блядь. Я вас жду.
They strapped a grenade to the chain.
Я вас жду. А вот здесь убежал майор. Убегал. Поэтому все печально, блядь. Полная неспособность, дезорганизация, потеря управления, блядь. Пытается выжить, блядь, в создавшейся ситуации, блядь.
Just equipment everywhere. I think this is kind of belaboring the point. Not all of them effectively turned and ran. Some of them shot while they ran. I'm going to give you a little bit of Mad Max here. This one is probably one of the craziest videos of a running gun battle that I have seen in quite some time. There's going to be technicals. There's going to be armored vehicles. There will be PK machine guns shooting out of the back of it. There's going to be crashes of those technicals. There's going to be some not safe for work, spicy stuff in this, so discretion is advised. This video is a little bit wild. I'll try and talk you through it. This is, I believe, a rolling gun battle in Tahama. I'll talk you through who each of the factions are as we're watching. Okay. So these technicals are Syrian Arab Army technicals. These are Assad's forces. These are rebel forces. More than likely HTS. Running down Assad's forces that are on foot right now. That shot, if I'm not mistaken, is actually from this lead vehicle there. But you can see some of these dismounts still running around this small compound. This vehicle, entering the picture from the bottom left, is a technical operated by Assad's regime. Machine gunner on the back of one of those armored vehicles starts engaging it. It's going to zoom by and crash up here. Dismounts, getting off of it. Then it gets run over by this vehicle. Another technical from Assad's regime forces coming into the picture here. Machine gunner engages that, it veers off, and it's going to crash, sending its dismounts. Honestly, one of the wildest videos that I've seen come out of Syria in a while. We've seen all sorts of stuff from Abu Tow. If you don't know who Abu Tow is, I recommend Googling that. He follows Josh on Twitter, and we think that's funny. To, I don't know, downed MQ-9 Reapers that the Kurds shot down because they thought it was a Turkish drone. For good reason, though. Turkey, we're going to see some footage here in a little bit, is using their drones to blow up Kurdish stuff. A lot of infighting. A lot of it's probably going to get worse. It just, if you had to ask me to throw a dart at a dartboard and tell you how I thought about things, it's not over. Let's keep going, though. I don't know who was piloting this T-Series tank, but if there's one thing that we've learned from the war in Ukraine, this is somewhere in Syria, if you are piloting a T-Series tank, it's probably best to also have some form of astronaut training. This is somewhere in Syria sometime over the last week. Look at that turret. That's like 6 seconds of hang time on that turret there. Let's count it. Ready? 3, 2, 1, count. I counted like 7.5 seconds of hang time on that thing. You got 8, Sully? I don't know, man. Now let's get a little bit more serious for a second here. Assad fled pretty quickly. For a little while, there was some information that led people to believe that his plane went down, when in fact, what it was likely was an information operation by Russia to throw people off of the scent of where he actually went. Some creative playing with a transponder, because he has showed up in Moscow. His people, his supporters in Syria are literally being dragged through the street. Discretion advised for this next video. This is tame compared to some of the other footage that's coming out of how Assad's regime forces are being treated by, well, again, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Here is an Assad regime soldier, being dragged through the streets. So again, I want to reiterate that I specifically chose this video to be the one exemplary of a larger, the word that comes to mind, and more sinister treatment of Assad's regime forces. Now, when I say sinister, Assad did not implement some bastion of democracy. He barrel bombed his citizens. There's some information to support chemical attacks against his citizens. The prisons that are being opened now by some of these rebels show torture chambers and people that have been locked in there with scenes that should come out of a movie. But some of these organizations and institutions that are now filling that power void are not themselves any semblance of quote-unquote good guys, right? What's interesting about this video, though, is there are likely civilians in there engaging alongside of this. You know what it reminds me of? Forgive me for saying this, but what it reminds me of are the Palestinians, the unarmed Palestinians that otherwise would not be associated with Hamas entering into Israel to loot as Hamas invaded Israel on October 7th. That's what it reminds me of. Let's move on. I've talked a couple times about how multiple organizations benefit from Assad's fall, one of those being the SDF, or the Kurds. This is the SDF pulling anti-air capabilities, so air defense systems, out of those previously held Assad areas. Now, the SDF did consolidate a lot of gains, some of which they're now losing. I want to show you a map. We're going to go to a different map that we haven't used since probably around when we started this stream. We haven't used Live UA map in a while, but they have one of the better maps for the Syria conflict that does show the variance in factions. I'm going to take you back to September 15th on this map, and we'll work through some of these. The black areas, just to cover the smaller areas, those were designated to be ISIS, or areas where the Islamic State was still operating in. That's one of the primary reasons, if not the primary, at least official reason, that the United States is still in Syria. Most of the United States bases are here, in this yellow area to the northeast. That's because that is the area currently held by the SDF, or the Kurds. You'll see Turkey refer to them as the YPG/PKK. Turkey considers both the YPG and the PKK to be a terrorist organization. The PKK being, in the United States' opinion, the more extreme of the two, since the primary support from the United States has gone to the YPG. The United States, once again, sees a separation between those groups. Turkey does not. Back to the map. The red areas are areas held by Assad, along with Russia. You'll also have quite a few Iranian positions in this. But Russia does also hold areas up here in this yellow area where the SDF is. Again, this is September. This is not a current map. Anybody that's joining here, we're looking at September 15th of this year. These areas up here, and I'll pull up the key for you so you can see, and this is what you're looking at there. These are areas held by the Free Syrian Army, or now known as the SNA, the Syrian National Army. Turkey, primarily being here, in this area over here. This ground specifically was taken in 2019 with an operation. This, of course, for those that aren't really geographically inclined is Turkey, just to the north here. So this is right along Turkey's border. To the south, we're going to talk about this area here in a little bit. This is Golan Heights, and you have Israel to the immediate left here. Al-Tanf, one of the United States' largest positions, is somewhere right in about here. But the majority of our smaller positions are scattered all throughout this area. Now let's go to the current map, which is going to be December 10th. Boom. Turn that off. So these areas still designated to be operational by ISIS, or at least have Islamic State presence in them. But you'll note that not only has HTS, SNA, rebel forces, quote unquote, multiple factions, all operating, at least to a certain extent, off of their own design, have taken the majority, and I say majority because there's still an indication that there are some Assad-held positions, Assad forces, I should say. But having taken the majority of Assad's previously held positions, make note of the Golan Heights area. We're going to see some footage in a little bit that supports this. Israel has started moving further and further into Syria to secure and hold the Golan Heights as a result of this conflict, this escalation in the conflict. It's also notable, though, and why there is that nugget of truth to people saying that the U.S., to a certain extent, supported the downfall of the Assad regime. Although the United States supports the SDF, they do so, we do so in the SDF's fight against the Islamic State. And as the SDF takes additional ground in the same way that the rest of the rebel forces are, they too are ultimately going to be a portion of the catalyst that forces Assad and his forces out. Let's go back to the footage, though. I wanted to spend a little bit of time in the map. This is a very broad brushstroke overview of things. There are other creators that are really getting far down into the weeds to help you understand the individual factions, why they support who they do, their backers, who's running the puppet strings on all of them. And I do recommend going to check that stuff out. If I might suggest one, it would be Preston Stewart. Those devices, or excuse me, not devices, those weapons that the SDF is taking out. This is where we start to talk a little bit about the infighting amongst the groups. Again, why you can't say that one backer or one nation is the cause of this. They're absolutely fighting each other. This is footage of Turkey blowing up some of those SDF captured Assad munitions. So that is SDF on the ground there. We're looking through the lens of a Turkish drone. Is this World War 15 footage? It is thermal footage from a drone. See the cook-off there. Emerald Wolf has an interesting question. Does it matter if it's a barrel bomb or a JDAM? Do we think a barrel bomb is more destructive or less? Well, a JDAM is a precision-guided munition. A barrel bomb is quite literally kicked out of the side of a helicopter, falls where it falls, and is filled with an explosive mixture and a bunch of scrap metal inside of it. So the answer to your question is ultimately in the design. Just continuing to watch these former Assad regime munitions sympathetically detonating from the strikes that came from this Turkish drone. Is Israel only destroying Assad equipment or also rebel equipment? We're going to talk about that here in just a second. Literally 2 videos from now, we will begin to talk about what I have seen from Israel's actions. Let's bring it up. Now, again, if you had to ask me an opinion on whether or not this ultimately stabilizes Syria, I think things are about to get worse. Because once HTS, SNA, these rebel factions take over all of Syria, consolidate their power base, they are going to turn all of their newfound power right at the Kurds, if you ask me. I think we are now entering into a new phase of the Syrian Civil War. Here's why. They are already fighting with each other. They have been for a while. There's no indication that that's going to stop. So we just saw Turkey hitting SDF positions. Now we're going to see the SDF using drone-dropped munitions to strike the Syrian National Army. These are the folks that are backed by Turkey. Here's the footage. Discretion advised. Again, if you're just joining us, we're watching SDF, or the Kurds, striking SNA positions, which is the Syrian National Army, effectively the rebrand of the Free Syrian Army, which itself was an umbrella term for an amalgamation of all different kinds of units and organizations whose allegiance and ties could one day be shaped one direction or pointed one direction, and another day to go the other way. I don't know. The factions in Syria is both more complicated and less complicated than most people will give it credit. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about the IDF and some of the things that they are doing to take advantage of, once again, Assad falling. There are multiple organizations, nations, and countries that benefit from Assad being pushed out. Russia most certainly does not. It really has a lot of impact on their ability to project power into Africa, but that's probably for another discussion. The IDF is primarily cleaning up Syrian military assets. I'm going to show you an example of that and something of a little bit of a storyboard here. Striking specifically in Latakia, the port of Latakia. From what I have seen, the IDF's primary focus is the assurance that none of this equipment falls into HTS or other rebel faction hands. I've got some better footage of this, don't worry. But this is the official release from the IDF. I'm also going to show you aftermath footage of this. 3 videos coming up for you here showing some of those strikes in Latakia. The first.
هذا اللواء أخي هذا جبل أبو العتا شايف أخي عم تضرب إسرائيل على كيف هلا.
We are naturally arming everyone involved. Who's we? All right, let's move to the next one. Coming up for you now.
شفتوه؟ اسمعوا شفتوه؟ يا الله اسمعوا شفتوه؟
Got one more for you from this perspective, and then we're going to look at some aftermath footage of some of these strikes. No sound to this one. America? No, we're not. Let's take a look at some of the aftermath footage from these strikes. The first coming from our very own Will Kilmore. So this is some footage that he drug from somewhere.
التي تظهر آثار الدمار في ميناء اللاذقية وذلك جراء القصف الإسرائيلي. يعني سوف نبقى نتابع هذه الصور وأنت تجيب على السؤال. تفضل.
يعني ميناء اللاذقية سواء كان الميناء التجاري أو ميناء البيضاء 22 عام قضيتم في هذا المكان. الزوارق الموجودة في الميناء التجاري أو الزوارق الموجودة في ميناء البيضاء وهي مقر قيادة اللواء 110 لا تشكل أي خطورة على إسرائيل. مدى الصاروخ الإسرائيلي 6 أضعاف مدى الصاروخ البحري الموجود في اللواء 110 والزوارق.
That's not going to buff out.
إذا اليوم ليست الغاية كما تقول إسرائيل ضرب الأهداف أو الأسلحة الاستراتيجية. في سوريا لا توجد أسلحة استراتيجية. التقدم 5 كيلومتر.
Those missiles were torpedoes. I'm actually not certain. I don't want to tell you one thing and it be wrong. They're boats. They look like boats. They used to float like boats. They're not floating so good now, but some kind of a boat.
لن تضيف أي ميزة أو لن تعطي أي حصانة للأمن الإسرائيلي. هذا إذا كانت
ماذا تريد إسرائيل؟
Missile boats? There's your answer. Anti-ship missiles.
إسرائيل
Well,
تبحث عن هدف سياسي.
what was once is no more.
تبحث عن تنازل عن الجولان. تبحث عن سوريا الدولة الفاشلة. تبحث عن سوريا الدولة منزوعة السلاح.
Jeez, look at that.
هذا الكلام لا يمكن. يعني قلنا من أن هذا الأمر يمكن أن يفرض كأمر واقع على غزة لظروف معينة. يمكن نتيجة ما كان.
Okay, I think I've got one more. This guy just saying Israel over and over again. This is another that I found. This account is interesting. This is a Turkish account, Clash Report. Unapologetically Turkish, if you will. Here you go.
إيران الاحتلال الصهيوني المنطقة على منتصف الليل وفجر اليوم بعدة صواريخ أدى هذا الاستهداف إلى انفجار مستودعات وبوارج كانت تتبع لقوات النظام وذلك بعد أن سيطرت قوات المعارضة على هذه المنطقة.
The rib survived.
هنا أحدى البوارج مدمرة والسفن الحربية بالإضافة أيضا هنا بوارج والسفن حربية دمرت نتيجة الاستهداف من قبل.
I present to you Hayat Tahrir al-Sham's Navy. Seriously, think about that for a second. Imagine Hayat Tahrir al-Sham had a navy.
دمرت بشكل كامل.
What does that say? Used defense on the boat? Med defense. It says med defense. No. Right? I don't know.
بعد أن استهدفتها طائرات الاحتلال الصهيوني.
Okay, let's bring it up. So I mentioned earlier Israel. I'm going to give you guys a geolocation here. The next bit of footage that I have is just to kind of showcase something that I mentioned earlier. While all of this is happening, Israel is absolutely consolidating gains themselves, specifically with Golan Heights. The next bit of footage we're going to watch is showing Israel taking positions in Golan Heights, more specifically here. We're going to see footage of Israel moving through this intersection. Actually, just beyond Golan Heights. Moving through this intersection and establishing forward operating bases inside of Syria. Here is the first bit of footage. Coming up for you now. I'm going to turn that off. Now, don't quote me on this, but if I recall, this was Shaldag. Shaldag? I don't know. What is something that's pertinent and important to note are some of Netanyahu's statements about their newfound permanent positions in Golan Heights. He said very specifically that Israel will, quote, never withdraw, and that Golan has become a part of Israel. Let's bring it back up. I'll give you a little bit more footage of Israel taking those positions. Here you are. Turning that off as well. Note the non-tactical vehicles that the IDF is using here. Now, some of the other positions that were hit, just to bring that all the way home, are airfields, where Assad had previously stored everything from MiGs to choppers. And this airfield specifically is what we're going to look at. The Meza airfield, just to the immediate southwest of Damascus. Damascus is kind of in southwestern Syria. I don't have the live UA map up again. I closed it. But that one that has better or more well-defined borders. But this is the location of this next bit of footage. And that's coming up for you now. This will be the last video that I show you from Syria. Israel has conducted something like 300 airstrikes across Syria. Again, primarily targeting former Assad regime munitions to keep those from falling into the hands of these rebel factions, whether it be HTS, the Syrian National Army, whomever. Calling them all just quote-unquote rebels is inaccurate. Largely because HTS is, from a certain perspective, operating on their own, if you will. The SNA, quite a bit of Turkish backing there. The SDF does have a little bit of United States backing. Primarily in the SDF's fight against ISIS, though, or the Islamic State. When the SDF and the SNA are picking at each other, or when the SDF and HTS are picking at each other, the United States has a policy, I'm just going to state the official position, has a policy of non-intervention. The SDF's support from the United States is in the mission against ISIS. So that's what I had for you from Syria, and I hope I just made the waters muddier, and it forces you to go and do a little bit more research. It's an area of the world that we have tried to dive into before. Only made it through one of probably what would have been a 3-part episode in the Syrian Civil War, and just never kind of went back to it. This is, in my opinion, probably something that we will have to have a section to cover each night. So we might expand the Israel section of the stream to include a little bit more about Syria moving forward. But there's plenty of footage, plenty of it. We're going to go to our Around the World segment here in just a second. I need to check in on the support because a whole bunch of it came across while we were trying to cover all of this stuff. And again, I am not here to be your talking head. I'm here to relay my understanding of the footage that I have here in front of you. If I say something wrong, correct me. Happy to be corrected on it. I'm not giving you a take. I'm giving you the context that I know. John, thank you very much for the $5. Been seeing lots of reports of the IDF courting the Druze militias. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Demo, thank you for the 15 months as a beast. You're a beast. Mosin, thank you for 33 months as a beast. Appreciate that, sir. Drello, thank you for the $5. It's not my birthday, big dog, but thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. No Tread, 1775, thank you for the $10. Gonna spend time with the girl I like and her parents. Congrats. Wish me luck, good luck, and happy birthday, man. Not my birthday, once again. Terry, thank you for the $5. Hell is coming for the corrupt after January 20th. Yeah, sure, man. Yeah. I hope it goes great. I really do. Let's move on. We're actually going to cover another area that we haven't covered very much of. Let's talk about Mexico. And we're going to head to Nuevo Laredo, where the National Guard engaged sicarios from the Sinaloa cartel. Just to help you understand what's going on here, my understanding is that the Mexican National Guard opened this engagement, and the perspective that we are seeing it through is the cartels. I could be wrong, but that is what I'm operating off when I watch this. Here we go. I failed Spanish 2 twice. I have no idea what he's saying. 7.69, 55.6. Well, Lord, I hope it's 7.69, and I need to get me one of those. Let me show you a map. Let's bring that one home for you for a second. That took place in Nuevo Laredo. The Rio Grande is here. Across the river from the Rio Grande is Laredo, Texas. Spicy. Very spicy area, very close to the United States border. But there's more. I'm sorry. More Sicarios from Sinaloa. Tracking United States Border Patrol using drones. Coming up now. It's a Border Patrol chopper. That's the Rio Grande you're seeing there. I'm gonna turn that off if you don't mind. All right, let's bring it back up. So, the footage coming from the cartels is one that I've been meaning to start adding to the show for quite a while. In the past, it has been a little bit more fruitful than it was tonight. I know it's just 2 videos, but I think the impact of those 2 videos. This video is also in Nuevo Laredo, right on the Rio Grande there, as it tracks, once again, a Border Patrol chopper. Presumably, it's tracking Border Patrol positions so that it can smuggle people across, so that they can smuggle people across the border. I don't know. I'm just drawing a conclusion on that one. But that's another one that I'll be adding to the stream here very shortly. We're going to move into our Ukraine section here in a moment. But first, Compiled Tech, thank you very much for the $5. Have you seen Civ Def videos from Fighting with Kurdish on YouTube? A couple of them, yeah. Turkey bombing the Yazidi area, interesting perspective. Yep. So Civ Dev's videos prior to his time in Ukraine were very heavily focused on his time with the Kurds. Definitely provides a little bit more insight into the Kurds and who's who, and I do recommend them, at least to get a better understanding of the situation in there in its entirety. Gunslinger, thank you for the 769. I gotta get me one of those, man. Let's move on to our Ukraine section. We're gonna start in Kherson. I don't have a great understanding of where, but I don't really think it matters, where we're gonna talk about the Sea Baby drones that got an upgrade, including automated fire systems that'll have a mounted either 240 or maybe a Ma Deuce, a 50 cal, something. Because now the boat drones are targeting the helicopters. Ukrainian boat drones shooting at helicopters in Kherson. Again, my understanding of the reports that came along with this video is that the reticle that you're seeing through here is some form of an automated tracking or targeting system that allows it to engage other targets than floating boats, than the boats. Now, there is actually quite a bit of information that's out there in some of the advanced targeting systems that Ukraine has been working on. I had the opportunity to review the first, actually 2 or 3 episodes of a docuseries that was done by the folks over at Vet TV. I'm still working with them on potentially doing kind of a set of thoughts on it, but one of those areas that the docuseries will take you to is a drone factory that's showing some of the more advanced drone capabilities that Ukraine is putting in place. We've talked plenty about some of Russia's advanced drone capabilities, primarily the fiber optic drones. But we're going to head now to Chasiv Yar, where we will see footage. I'm going to have to turn the music off on this one. Footage of what was described as Russian VDV in one of their assaults in Chasiv Yar. Here is that footage. Mind your ears. I'm going to check the audio on this one. No, that's... What is that? Skillet. Skillet Hero is the song. Yeah, it's a great song. Something about this stairwell, the first time I watched this, looks really interesting to me. And I think it's just a function of, you know, how all Soviet era buildings look. But there was a propaganda video that was put out not too long ago that showed Ukrainians walking up a set of stairs with absolutely no, just not a chance. It was, who was it, Rudenko or whatever that put it out. 100% staged video. That stairwell just is a spitting image of that other stairwell. Anyway, back to the footage. I'm just saying maybe they're both just the same looking stairwell, but it's the same. I'm not sure what it is they're engaging. Definitely the other buildings there, but all I have is that this was reported to be Chasiv Yar. No way. Stairs, the same? Yeah, I mean, you could be an asshole about it. I'm just telling you, the paint on the walls, the window location, it's all the same. I'm not even making a claim to come along with that. I just reminds me of that video. Yeah, Johnny. I mean, I watch footage quite literally for a living. I'm just saying it's literally the same. The paint on the walls is the same. The window location is the same. It's Ronnie, can you give more info about what video you were talking about? I'd have to go find it. I mean, I've kind of described it in the best way that I could. But I want to say I broke it down here on the show one night. All right, let's bring it up. In New York, I want to give you a discretion advised for this one. So New York, Donetsk, we have Ukrainians assaulting a Russian position. That's a good song, too. I wish we could listen to it. Really formulaic construction. Yeah, that was more my point. You know, I'm not trying to say it's the same location. I'm just saying I think all of the buildings are the same inside. Rock you like a hurricane. Simple man with a simple brain. Thank you. Just hucking grenades at each other here. Satchel charge up. Yeah. Yep. I can recall watching over ISR as a Ranger Strike Force was dealing with a bunker barricaded shooter. You know, this reminds me very much of it when they kind of got tired of it and just satcheled the top of it and collapsed the whole structure on them. But they one-hole that hole in the roof there. All right, let's bring it back up. In Kharkiv. I'm not sure why Donetsk is above Kharkiv because, oh, we're kind of moving up the map there. I actually have a geolocation for this one. It's coming up for you guys now. We are going to see a Ukrainian assault that gets stopped and halted by FPV drones. This is in Kharkiv in the north. You have, the fighting for Vovchansk up here. We're going to be a little bit to the east of the Kursk area, which we'll be talking about here in a moment. I've got a little bit of footage and almost a storyboard to talk about on the far western side here. But for now, the next bit of footage, I'm lost. There we go. It's going to take place here. I want to give you a potential discretion advised for this one. But here it is. So that first vehicle there gets hit by what I would describe as probably a mine. What does FPV stand for? First person view. He was talking to me. Oh, your name is Simple Man. Oh, I just figured it was me. It was a fitting description. Discretion advised, once again. Let's bring it up. Also in Kharkiv, near Lipsy. Sorry if I butchered that one. I don't have a geolocation for this, just that it is reportedly from that location. And once again, discretion advised. War happens in this video. You have another UA armored column, Ukrainian armored column being defeated by drones. Lipsy. All right. Excuse me. Sorry. Now let's head into Russia, where we have quite a bit of footage from Kursk to cover here. I want to say 4 or 5 videos. This first is, I'm calling this the adder snake video. If you don't know what an adder snake does, it essentially lays in the water underneath of its prey and kind of just lays in wait for it. This is an FPV drone doing exactly that as a Russian ATV passes it. One day, Ronnie will say, I will, and that'll be on September 1st of next year. Coming back up. Now we're headed into the geolocatable footage, and specifically this is near Darino. I have a geolocation for it so that I don't butcher that again. We're going here. So a series of videos that are going to show a Ukrainian tank as it is kind of moving through and working or firing at some of these buildings, and it's going to lead all the way up to, I think, just a little bit further into this small town here where a Ukrainian tank is then destroyed. This first tank was reported to be a T-64. I don't know exactly how that information was derived. I can't tell based on the 8 pixels that are in this. But this is a Ukrainian tank that we will then see some footage in a moment. Maybe this is enough for vehicle guys to be able to tell. Ronnie, were you E4 Mafia once upon a moon? Yes. I'm of the opinion that once you become a part of the true E4 Mafia, though, that you never really truly stop being a part of it. This video, so again, just to show you where we were here, this video is going to take place here. Basically right next to it. It's going to show you a Leopard 2A6 being destroyed. And I actually have two perspectives of this for you. The first, the Leopard obviously being operated by Ukrainians. This is a Russian FPV drone. It's going to sneak up and hit that Leopard right in the hind parts. Now, there's some possibility we're looking at a fiber optic drone here. We don't have any of the, at least up till now, any of the typical pixelation that you'll see with non-fiber optic drones. I mean, it's pixelated, but I think that just might be due to the download and upload of video over time. But don't worry, that little cutout of the video there, I actually have a version of this that will show you from a second drone that very same strike. There is that very same tank. And this is immediately post-strike. You can see 3 dismounts, which I do believe is the entirety of the crew for the Leopard 2A6, moving into this building. Now, it's always important to note, if the tank is there and it's banging on something, which it was, in the previous video we saw it firing at these buildings, that there is a likelihood of Russian infantry being in some of these other buildings. So now these 3 Ukrainians are essentially holed up more or less across the street, and they turn into infantry at that point. Let's move on. North of there, not very far at all, actually, up near the river, in this location, actually really all along this road here, Russian attempts to reinforce that area got stopped by, once again, welcome to the drone show, FPV drones. That video is coming up for you now. So the total count in this video, it can be difficult to keep track is somewhere between 4 and 5 vehicles that end up being destroyed here. Let's bring it back up. We're moving into our general Ukraine section here, where we have some very spicy close quarters combat near a barricaded shooter's position. These are 2 Ukrainians attempting to engage a barricaded shooter when one of them is hit by a very danger close hand grenade, fragmentation grenade of some kind. Discretion's advised for this one. I'll tell you that the report that was pushed out with this is that this individual survived. I happen to know somebody, and we've had them here on the show, that has survived a hand grenade being lobbed at them from and landing about a foot and a half or so away. It can happen. Reportedly, that's what happens here. Got to keep the sound off, though, unfortunately. Now, there are at least some folks that have told me about this video that the grenade in his backpack is the one that detonates here, or that there was a grenade in his backpack, and it wouldn't be difficult for me to believe that. They are in some kind of a close contact. There are small arms rounds hitting all around them. One way or another, explosion where you don't want it, on or near your person. Let's bring it up. Discretion advised on this next one. I am not sure who told these 2 individuals that this is the right thing to do. But here's the footage. Discretion advised. These are 2 Russians that are attempting to stand extremely still, I can only assume, to avoid being struck by the FPV drone. Again, not trying to make light of this video specifically, but I can only imagine that they were provided instruction somewhere at some point along their training pipeline, whatever that actually looks like, that they can avoid detection by not moving. And I believe that they took that literally. The problem is they are standing in the middle of a road, and well, you saw what happened. Let's move on. We have a 1v4. This is a Ukrainian engaging 4 Russians. I don't know exactly where this takes place. By opening the engagement first, throwing a hand grenade. He then engages the first Russian with his rifle, transitions, engages the second, kills both of them. The other 2 scamper off. Here's the footage. Discretion advised. One here, there, and there. He had just hucked that grenade. This one dropped, that one dropped, the grenade lands. This guy's going to get off the X. Possibility that he was able to hit the third there as well. Controlled pairs from the Ukrainian there. Shot, shot, transition, shot, shot, transition, shot. My understanding is that there is an extended version of this, or potentially somewhere further down this line that I actually haven't gone this far yet, that this last guy is hit with a drone. We'll watch all of it. I haven't reviewed that far into this footage, though. Where can I find this specific video? It's on our Twitter. And it shouldn't be that far back. I also believe we have it on the website as well. Yeah, if it's on the website, it's on the app. Thanks for that, Toxic Munchkin. All right, let's come back up. All right, this one's a little bit comical. Let's shift off of things and take a look at some propaganda for a second. Because that's what this is. That's what this next video is. It is most certainly propaganda. You can't argue that it isn't, because that's why you release this. We release similar stuff as the United States. I hate when I use the word propaganda and people think that I think it's negative. Everybody does propaganda. Every country in the world does propaganda. That's you. If you don't do that, if you don't put out footage or photos towards a desired effect, then you are not effective in the information space. So this is propaganda footage. It is Russian footage. It is Russian footage of dual machine guns. I'm going to play the footage. Footage. I'm going to play it, and I would like you to tell me what the problem is. So it is released by the Ministry of Defense. All right, I'm going to give you the answer. This, oh, sorry. Yep, that's the one we want right there. Unless you're using tracers and you walk something on, you'll never hit anything in your life with this thing. So pay very close attention to the elevation travel of the guns there, okay? And then look at the sight, the coat hanger that they put in the middle of it. It's not moving, all right? So if you have this was advertised as a new drone defense platform. If you have a drone defense platform, you should probably have your sight point up when you point the gun up. That's what I'm saying. So this is released by the Russian Ministry of Defense to showcase their ingenious drone defense platform, that the sight doesn't elevate with the gun. Drones are in the sky. It should be able to look up. And that's funny to me. It's pretty stupid. All right. The second to last video I have for you guys, we're already closing in on the end of the show tonight, is one that I think is right on the homepage of the website. It sure is, right there. We're going to see a swing and a miss, and then in the Halo voice, an overkill. Back to back. I have no idea where this takes place. It's a Ukrainian tank here. There's a Russian soldier here that's going to fire an RPG at it. He is going to choke and miss that shot. That tank then levels these 3 buildings. Whiff. In case you missed it. Right over top of it. I don't know where it went. I think it actually ricochets off of either this telephone pole or potentially a wire, or maybe there's like, this looks like maybe a tree here. So I think that when he fires it, yeah, it does. It does hit that. And you could see it move. So pay very close attention to right here in the video as I scrub this. That's your rocket. And then if you look at this tree here, it wiggles. And it just sails right over top of that tank. All right. Let's bring it back up, check in on the support, and thank you guys very much for it. John, thank you for the $5 confirmation. Ronnie is an interior decorator. Yeah, nobody said I was good at it, though. I mean, look at that. Look at this. Look at this studio. Oh, I don't have the other camera put up. I was going to give you one around the whole studio. Thank you very much for the 5, sir. John, thank you again for another 5. Skliat. I don't even know what that's in reference to, but I do appreciate very much the $5. Wyatt, thank you for the $20. Do you support using U.S. military against the cartels? I don't know. If I were asked to do it as a member of the United States military, I would. Am I ready to send other people to do that? No, not necessarily. Do I think that something needs to happen? Yes. Yes, I do. It's not cool, nor do I enjoy the thought of machine gun battles, less than a mile over the border with cartels and the military capabilities that they have. That's not something that I like to think about. But I have thought about it before, and I just don't have a strong enough opinion on that just yet. I think it's interesting that a lot of people have to have these for and against type opinions. You'll find that I have very few of those. One of the very strong opinions that I have, as an example, is Second Amendment rights. I mean, there's a reason that I took another job with a gun rights organization. But not all of my opinions are as hardlined as most people would like them to be. And I think that's because the complexity of most situations is well beyond the base understanding of most people. That's just an opinion, though. I hope you hold it against me. But thank you very much for the $20. That's so many dollars, man. Compiled Tech, thank you very much again for the 5. Before that, Gunslinger, thank you for the 769. We're going to close out the stream tonight. There should be a bunch of footage and all kinds of fun posts coming out on my Twitter and probably also my Instagram and the Funker Twitter and Instagram from our trip down there to hang out with all of our friends, in the gun tuber space, if you will. Everybody from Demo Ranch to Donut and just everybody's going to be down there. It's a lot of fun and a lot of good people. Looking forward to it very much. I'm very appreciative that they continue to send us an invite to come down. I need to thank our sponsor for tonight's show before we close things out. It's going to be RMA. You see one of their plates, specifically the 1165, over my right, your left shoulder. Right there. That's the 1165. It's a level 4 plate. It's made 100% materials and manufactured in America. What you get with a lot of the Chinesium plates is you don't get edge-to-edge protection. That means that the protection, that level 4, which is multi-hit level 4 protection, stopping up to 30-06 armor piercing, all the way to the edges there. Sometimes you'll have these little buffer areas on the very, very end of it. It's actually also one of the few plates that is truly 10 by 12. Oftentimes you'll find plates that are advertised as 10 by 12, but don't quite meet that bill. Now that matters very much because of the way it fits into your plate carrier. Thank you very much to RMA for sponsoring tonight's show. I do appreciate it very much. We all do here at Funker. Again, if you guys make this show worth it, they make it possible. Okay. So thank you for that, RMA. Samuel, thank you very much for the $10. I love your channel, bro. Good job. I am a host on the channel. Do not own the channel. Never have. I have designed this show for better or for worse, but there's a possibility that we could be changing the structure of it. We could have a co-host here soon, in which case we would probably look at maybe changing how we do things, making it a little bit more discussion-oriented. I don't know yet. There's a lot of good changes to come here from Funker 530 and from our YouTube live and podcast just over the next couple months. I'm looking forward to it. One last video for you, though. There's always one more. I wish people would stop telling me. Anyway, I don't want to go down that path. I have no idea what's going on in this video. I don't know. I know that I'm an expert in it, and my kids are also showing a lot of promise in whatever this is. I don't know what this is. Here's the footage. I won't be here this Friday. Again, I'll be hanging out with some friends down in San Antonio. If you guys are down in that area, hope we run into you. But good night. Stay informed and go be great. I don't know. Bro, I've been practicing this stuff since before I could walk. You remember when you were a kid and you just, you know, did you guys ever get in the laundry basket and ride down the stairs? That's what I see when I see this. What is he doing? I'm imagining him making pew sounds right here. Like right there. As he's like, I can't tell if that's artificial recoil he's doing or if it's because of the stairs. It's probably the stairs, but I'm imagining him, you know, pew, pew, pew. Oh, man. Good night.